Good evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with Emergency Management Associates coming to you from the crossroads of the West in Salt Lake City, Utah. The time right now is 6:11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Tuesday, March 18th. Happy birthday, Mother. March 18th, 2020. It's my mother's birthday up there in the heavens. We want to thank everybody that is going to be joining us tonight, whether you're joining us right now as we speak, or whether you will be joining us on a delayed broadcast basis or later this evening, whatever. We want to welcome you all here. You're more than welcome to be part of our broadcast at Emergency Management Associates. Our top story tonight, coming out of Salt Lake City, Utah. A 5.7 magnitude quake hit at 7:09 p.m. Mountain Standard Time this morning. And we are going to give you a brief description of what that earthquake was like right here, right now. That is just a small overview of what happened earlier today, this morning. I want to describe it to you because I was here. I was trying to get a little bit more sleep this morning. I was up quite late last night, tending to some more business with our Freedom Revolution Network. And so I was trying to get a little bit more sleep, and at 7:09 p.m., all of a sudden the house started shaking. That's the only way I can describe it. The house started shaking. The shaking lasted for about 5 to 10 seconds, and then it stopped. And I thought, did we just have an earthquake? I knew we had, but that question was going through my mind. What just happened and why? About 20 seconds after that, the first aftershock hit, and it continued for a long period of time. And I don't know how long that happened, but the aftershock was a rolling, and it wasn't really an aftershock. It was a delayed reaction from the main shock. That's what that was. And it was a rolling motion, like a rolling pin going over a bunch of stones in a driveway or over a road. It was a rolling motion like this, and you could feel the ground move in a rolling motion. That's what it was like. As I showed you on the Fox Network this morning, live on our Fox Network, we brought you the information as it came to us live here in Salt Lake City. Water main broke over in the downtown Salt Lake City area. The Salt Lake City Airport was shut down, the main concourse, and what's it called? The one end of the airport where passengers go to wait for planes. Anyway, the main concourse was shut down, and that part of the airport was also shut down. And eventually, all patrons that were going to be flying out this morning were brought outside, and airliners were diverted to other airfields outside of Salt Lake City for the time being. They had their hands full at the airport. There were probably several thousand people waiting at the Salt Lake City Airport for flights, and they were ushered out into the streets, not the streets, but the outer area outside the concourse to await whatever transportation that they were going to need to take out of Salt Lake that today. Incoming flights were diverted, and I'm not sure exactly when the flights were brought back into Salt Lake. What happened this morning at 7:09 a.m. was the Salt Lake City FAA tower was shaken quite handily. From what by all accounts that we got this morning, the tower swayed, and they had problems with the tower and thought they were going to have problems with the tower. And until it was inspected and deemed safe, air traffic controllers left the tower and did not return until much later. Once the debris was cleaned up inside the main concourse and terminal, that's what it's called, terminal area, flights resumed, and passengers were able to start catching flights and deboarding off of planes, but not until things were cleaned up substantially, which was probably sometime after about 11 or 12 o'clock today. We left the air ourselves about 10 o'clock this morning after being on the air for several hours with you, explaining exactly what had happened here in Salt Lake City. It was an effort, to say the least, to keep things going here in Salt Lake. There was debris that was in the downtown area. Many of the old buildings' facades collapsed onto the surrounding outdoor sidewalks outside the businesses. Those businesses did not open today. Let me see if I can bring up a picture of this, because I want to show you what happened. See if I can bring you a picture of this. All right. Trying to bring this up here. I want to show you a picture of this. All right, we're going to do this. Cool. The damage extended not just from old building facades that crashed to the ground this morning. Some building tops came off the top of the facade and crashed to the ground on the street. And Salt Lake City Police had to cordon off parts of the street so traffic can continue going. And Salt Lake City Police at one point were trying to divert traffic out of downtown Salt Lake City. They were advising people not to come in to Salt Lake City because of all the debris field that was left by the earthquake. One part of downtown Salt Lake that has been a tourist attraction was the LDS Temple. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a temple in downtown Salt Lake. The top of the temple is what they call an angel Moroni, which comes from the Book of Mormon that the church believes in. And you see the angel Moroni with his hand up in the air. That angel Moroni usually has a trumpet that is circled here. It fell off the angel Moroni today. The angel Moroni holds a trumpet up in the air and is blowing the trumpet, and there's no sound coming out of the trumpet naturally, but it's just a statue up on top of the temple, on the pinnacle of the temple. But here is the trumpet that the angel Moroni was holding prior to the earthquake, and it shows that hitting the edge of the tower, one of the towers on the LDS Temple. The following statement was released by church spokesman Daniel Woodruff. This morning at 7:09 a.m. Mountain Time, Salt Lake City experienced a 5.7 magnitude earthquake. No injuries have been reported to church employees until further notice. All church headquarters facilities are closed to evaluate the safety of our buildings. The Salt Lake Temple, which was undergoing a seismic upgrade at the time, sustained minor damage during Wednesday morning's, it is Wednesday morning, I thought it was Tuesday for some reason, Wednesday morning's earthquake. The trumpet on the Angel Moroni statue fell off, and there's minor displacement of some of the temple's smaller spire stones, which you see right here. Spire stones there. No workers were injured. Crews on the job site have been sent home for the day, and a full assessment is underway to determine needs going forward. This event emphasized why this project is so necessary to preserve this historic building and create a safer environment for our patrons and visitors. Now, this temple has been in existence in downtown Salt Lake City since, I believe, 1886, when the temple was finished by the Mormon pioneers that had come into the Salt Lake Valley in the mid to late 1800s. And the first thing they did was build a temple to their God so they could worship God there. They also had another building built, which is a force of reckoning. It is a building called the Tabernacle. I'm going to look up really quick the Tabernacle here in Salt Lake City to show you this. Okay, I'm going to hopefully here show you a picture of the Salt Lake Tabernacle. I don't know why it's not coming up like it normally would here. Let's try this one more time. Okay, let's try this one more time. I think I double clicked it or something. Is what happened. That's what I believe happened anyway. The Tabernacle is an oval shaped building that this is the inside of the Tabernacle. Okay. This is the inside of the Tabernacle. This is where the LDS Church held conferences from the beginning times of the church in Salt Lake City until approximately the mid-1990s, when the church built or outgrew the Tabernacle and built what they call the LDS Conference Center, which is across the street from where the Tabernacle and Temple Square is. This is the inside, looking from the back to the front pulpit area. They have concerts once a week here in the Tabernacle of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. They meet here the concerts start here at 9:30 a.m. in the morning, and they usually have the Tabernacle Choir here, and quite a few times they have the Salt Lake Tabernacle Orchestra here. That's what these seats are for here. They've got an upper balcony that runs the sides, both sides of the tabernacle, and is also in the back of the tabernacle as well as the main floor seating here. The seating, I believe, held around 5,000 people, if I'm not mistaken. And the church eventually outgrew this as a conference venue, and they built a larger building called the Conference Center that holds about 25,000 people. This right here are the organ pipes for the tabernacle organ that is up in here too. and it's a beautiful masterpiece. The organ you see here, I believe this is a 4-tier organ, and the stops are here. It's a beautiful masterpiece of an organ. Like I said, these are the pipes and the seating for the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, as well as the orchestra here that accompanies the Tabernacle Choir during most of their concerts. I wanted to show you a picture of the outside of the building. I'm not sure whether we can do that or not. No, that's the state capitol. There's the Mormon temple there. This here in the background of the LDS temple is the tabernacle. Now, what sets this apart is it is a complete round roofed structure here, an oval shape. But the most unique thing about this tabernacle, it doesn't have one nail in it, not one. The building was built and finished with pins holding the structure together. And it's still the main underpinning, literally, of the building. Quite a few years ago, the tabernacle had undergone a seismic retrofit, and so it was made to withstand, I think, a 7+ earthquake. That's what the temple is going through right now. The LDS Church closed this temple at the end of last year, and it, I believe, is going to go 4 years for a complete retrofit, earthquake seismic retrofit for this temple building. And we saw what happened today with the loss of the statue of the Angel Moroni. Actually, the trumpet of the statue of Angel Moroni came off of the statue and crashed into one of the upper roofs of the temple up here in the tower. So that's what I wanted to show you here. I hope it was worthwhile to you to see those pictures of the LDS temple. But that was the only damage that happened to the LDS structures in Salt Lake City. But like I said, many of the other downtown buildings that were older buildings lost the upper parts of their facades. Brick and concrete mortar fell to the ground and littered the sidewalk and out into the street. And like I said, police cordoned off part of the street to traffic so nobody would get hurt if the structure would still come down today, during the day. Now, I probably should say that we have probably had now over 100 earthquakes, 100 aftershocks since the main quake at 7:09 a.m. this morning. Now, I want to tell you briefly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I'm going to go over the main earthquakes that happened today here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Well, not here, just in Salt Lake City, but all over the world. Now, Salt Lake was not the first place where an earthquake hit today. I'm going to take you down to the northeastern coast, off the northeastern coast of New Zealand today. Off the northeastern New Zealand coast, we had a 5.4 magnitude quake here, 5.0, I'm sorry, 5.0 magnitude quake, some 260 kilometers northeast of Gisborne. Gisborne, New Zealand is right here, and this earthquake was off the coast. And again, I don't believe there was much shaking at all up here in the northern part of New Zealand, because the water of the Pacific Ocean absorbed most of the seismic energy from this quake this morning. Now, another quake hit, that was ours here in Salt Lake City. Let's go over and take a look at the map of the United States, and I'll show you what it looks like with the seismic circles that they put here, showing the results of the earthquake here in Salt Lake City. As you can see, this was not in the main part of Salt Lake City. This was out in what they call the community of Magna, Utah, which is in the central east section of the city. There's one highway that runs by the north side of where this earthquake hit, and it's Highway 80 that runs all the way up into Wyoming and over into California. But that highway, there was no damage to the highway, other than I think a little bit of the off-ramp right here. If you can see on, well, you can't even see because I haven't brought it up. Let me bring it up. My bad here. Okay, now you can see what I'm talking about. I'm sorry for that. My bad. This is northeastern Magna, M-A-G-N-A, Magna, Utah. And this is in an industrial area of Magna. And most of it, actually, most of the industrial area wasn't even phased hardly. The main thrust of the aftershocks here and the main quake that hit at 7:09 a.m. this morning, all of it hit east of the main industrial area. And it wouldn't surprise me to know that the businesses in the area probably closed down because they were right, literally, almost on top of the earthquake. But this is just a sample of the aftershocks, including the main shock from this morning, but a sample of where the aftershocks hit. You can see, I believe, I hope you can see anyway, this is a highway interchange here going off into Magna off of Interstate 80. It goes north and it goes south. And one of the earthquakes hit right here by the freeway. And this area is 3 lanes in each direction. And anyway, I believe this off-ramp coming from the northbound direction on Interstate 80 going off into Magna here, I think this off-ramp sustained a little bit of damage, and the surrounding areas probably sustained a good deal of damage here in the Magna area. One of the last aftershocks, not the last, but one of the last aftershocks this afternoon hit at about 4:15 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time now, and it was a 4.5 moderate quake, a good jolt, even this afternoon after this earthquake hit. This is a 4.5, and yes, this is the one here. This is the earthquake, or the aftershock here that hit at 4:15 p.m. Today. We had several other aftershocks. This one here is a 3.7, not quite as powerful as this 4.5, but it could still rattle people's nerves. A 3.7 is what they call an upper range 3, and 3.0 to 3.9 is considered a small quake. But even a 3.7 will rattle somebody's nerves pretty well. It might do a tiny bit of damage, knock something off a shelf, but mostly you'll feel it underneath your feet more than anything. But the rest of these, we had a 3.4 today, a 3.1. There was a bunch of 2.8s, 2s, and 3s all over the place. Here's another 4.6 that hit earlier about noon today. And all the rest of these here are miscellaneous aftershocks of 3.1 in West Valley. Out here is another suburb of Salt Lake City, just south of Magna. This is West Valley, and they had a couple earthquakes out here today, 3.1, and this one out here at 2.5. And let's see, no, those are Magna earthquakes, but this is West Valley here. So that will give you an idea of what happened today. If you want the lowdown on exactly what happened here in Salt Lake City, we will give you that information if you'll go over to our morning show. We kind of interrupted the Red Pill show of Tim and Mel, and we apologize for that, but it's one of the things that we do as a radio, television, video outlet, is to interrupt shows if something of major importance would happen, and that's what happened this morning. So that's here. One of the other earthquakes that happened today was up in Alaska. Now I'm going to take you up to Alaska and show you what happened up in Kobuk, Alaska. Right up here, north, it's not quite north central Alaska, but it's just above central Alaska. Kobuk, Alaska is a community, a small community in north central Alaska. And today it had a 5.0 magnitude earthquake. This one hit at 7:31 a.m. Mountain Time today. It hit at 7:31. Now it should be mentioned here that last year at this time, we had a 6.3 magnitude earthquake that hit this area, and we've been having aftershocks since that earthquake happened. But means this is a 5.0. This may have also been an aftershock, but all these other aftershocks surrounding this main shock today at 5.0 are all aftershocks of this quake today. So that's what happened. That was the third earthquake to hit the planet today. The fourth earthquake hit at 10:45 a.m. on the opposite side of the planet, the opposite side of the Ring of Fire, I should say. This hit a 6.2 magnitude earthquake, hit 246 kilometers south of Kangen, Indonesia. This is near Bali, Indonesia, where the resorts are, big, huge hotels, and the sound, or not the sound of music, the epic musical South Pacific was filmed down in this area of Bali, Indonesia. And one of the songs of South Pacific is all about Bali. Okay. I don't think you were able to see what I was talking about. I'm sorry about that. Now you are. This is Bali, Indonesia here. This is where the fourth earthquake to hit our planet was, fourth major earthquake. Okay, these are not major earthquakes, but in order of appearance of the earthquakes, this is what happened today, a 6.2 over here in Bali, Indonesia. As you see, we have a red dot here that I just turned blue. We had a 4.5 moderate earthquake, 3 kilometers, a mile and a half north of Petarukan, P-E-T-A-R-U-K-A-N, Petarukan, Indonesia. Okay, this just happened within the last half hour. As you see here in central Indonesia, going up into the Philippines, which is right here, central Indonesia isn't even really represented by the large number of earthquakes. This whole area was filled. There's a swarm of earthquakes that hit this area of central Indonesia today. Right now, it shows one 4.5 magnitude earthquake, 245 kilometers west of Sumlaki, Indonesia. This area continues to get hit and hit often over here. This whole area is a subduction zone, very much like the Pacific Northwest, Seattle area, and Vancouver Island is. The smaller plates here, smaller plates are subducting under the Pacific plate. That's what's happening, okay? So we had this earthquake today over in Kangen, Indonesia, Bali, Indonesia today. The fifth earthquake hit over here in in Halmahera, Indonesia, right in here. Let me see if I can pull it up here, see if it will let me. Nope, it's not going to let me. Doggone it. No, it's not going to let me. Well, actually, this is it here. They are calling it Tobelo, Indonesia. It was put out as Halmahera, Halmhera, Indonesia, this morning. A 5.4 large earthquake, 5.4 large earthquake hit here in Halmahera, Indonesia at 12:13 noontime, 12:13 noontime here in the Mountain Time Zone. The 6th earthquake hit over here in Vanuatu. Number 6 hit here in Vanuatu this morning or this afternoon at 2:13 p.m. this afternoon here in the Mountain Time Zone. It was a 6.1 magnitude earthquake. A 6.1 magnitude earthquake. Now, another earthquake that I guess we'll just talk to you about now. This is the 9th earthquake in sequence. This was number. I want to make sure we've got all these right. This was number 6 in Vanuatu. This is the Solomon Islands. A 5.5 large earthquake hit 158 kilometers west-southwest of Wada, Solomon Islands. Both of these earthquakes did not hit land. They did not hit land. They were in open water, which means the water absorbed the earthquake shock today. The earthquake shock. Another earthquake that hit today was over here in the Nodai, Fiji area. Nodai, Fiji area. This earthquake was a 4.9, 5.0 magnitude earthquake. This was over by Nodai, Fiji, between Fiji and Tonga. That's where this earthquake hit today. The 8th earthquake, today was this Solomon Islands quake, the 5.5, and what they call the Santa Cruz Solomon Islands. 5.5 in Santa Cruz Solomon Islands today. Let's see if I have missed anything. I don't want to miss anything here. That was the 9th earthquake here in the Solomon Islands today. That's what happened, okay? Now we do have earthquakes that have hit over here in the United States that were a large earthquake. This happened just about, I want to even say, let me highlight this in blue. This earthquake hit at 3:08 p.m. Mountain Time, 3:08 p.m., just off the coast of Petrolia, California, 14 kilometers, approximately 7.5, 8 miles off the coast of Petrolia, California. Now again, this is what they call the triple junction. We have the beginnings of the San Andreas Fault here. We have the Cascadia subduction zone that runs from Northern California all the way up through and past British Columbia, Vancouver, Queen Charlotte's Island here, and up into Alaska. This area is called the Cascadia subduction zone. This earthquake hit right at the triple junction, basically right at the triple junction. Now I'm going to enlarge it a little bit so you can see where this earthquake hit. Okay, it was slightly offshore from California, but it hit just 14, or I'm sorry, this hit 14 kilometers, approximately 8 miles off the coast of Petrolia, California. Now, this is, like I said, in the triple junction area. This line that you see is an underwater earthquake fault called the Gorda Escarpment. The Gorda Escarpment. Again, this is a Cascadia subduction zone, and this is the beginnings of the San Andreas Fault that runs all the way down the coast of California, past where did it go here? Okay, it goes past the San Francisco Bay Area. This is Monterey Bay right here, where we had another 2.7 magnitude earthquake in San Juan, near San Juan Bautista, approximately 3 miles south of San Juan Bautista, and another quake south of there in Tres Pinos, California. Again, both of these earthquakes are on the San Andreas Fault. Tres Pinos last year sustained a 5.2 magnitude earthquake. I believe it was in September over here. They said they came down, they downgraded it to a 4.7, but I crunched all the numbers. It was actually a 5.2 magnitude earthquake. Today, a 2.7 in Tres Pinos. This is a California vineyard area, and they also have some oil and gas pumping operations going there. Now, this San Andreas Fault goes all the way through California, goes inland a bit, goes all the way down on the northern outskirts of San Diego County, and ends up going down the eastern side of what is this? The Salton Sea. The Salton Butte volcano is right here. But this earthquake fault, the San Andreas, they say once it turns into Imperial County, California, which is right about here, it becomes the Imperial Fault. But in all actuality, it is the San Andreas Fault that skirts the outer eastern edge of the Salton Sea and continues. It curves right here at the bottom of the Salton Butte volcano, Salton Sea area, and goes down through Winchester, California, and this area goes all the way down across the border. This is the border, goes all the way down through Imperial County, crosses the border, and goes down here into the Gulf of California, where we've had quite a few earthquakes as of late, and goes all the way into the area. It comes down out of the Gulf of California and goes down the outside the western side of Mexico. As you can see here, goes down the western side of Mexico. Okay, that's the San Andreas Fault. But what we wanted to show you tonight was where this earthquake hit at the Triple Junction area of the San Andreas Fault, the Cascadia Subduction area, and also the Gorda Escarpment. So that was the last earthquake that we had, not the last earthquake, but the last large earthquake that we had here in the Ring of Fire. Now, there were other earthquakes all around the globe. There was another earthquake over here in southeastern Alaska. This whole area of central Indonesia was hit. Over here in the Philippines, you see, this is Halmahera, Indonesia here, but up here into the Philippines, they also had their share of earthquakes today. Puerto Rico also had a bunch of threes today. On this, most of the earthquakes are in the southwestern side of Puerto Rico. Over here in the Mid-Atlantic Fault. Mid-Atlantic Fault also sustained a 4.9, 5.0 magnitude earthquake today. 4.9, 5.0 magnitude earthquake. Why do I call it a 4.9, 5.0? Because this was probably downgraded to a 4.9. Every time we have a large earthquake, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, they usually get downgraded to 4.9, just like this did today. Now, I went back right before we came on the show today. I did some checking on this earthquake in the Cascadia Subduction Zone. What they said this earthquake was a 5.2. Folks, if you go to the back seismologist study page, they show two earthquakes having numbers on. One of them was not this 5.2. It wasn't. They have one listed as a 5.0. In fact, I'm going to take you there. We're going to click on this for kicks and giggles because I want to show you what happens here. This we turn into the study page here where it shows where the earthquake hit and does the calculations. This particular earthquake was felt by 1,707 people. 1,707 people felt this quake. All right, we're going to scroll down just a short distance until we get to origins. We click on origins, and then we come to the magnitudes of earthquake that hit over there off the coast of Petrolia, California. You see there's a 5.21 here. There's also 4.95. This 4.95, it wasn't a 4.95. It was a 5.2. But they're listing 221 reporting stations for this particular quake. You notice about what happened here with the 5.2? 5 stations reporting it, and they're not releasing any data on those sensors off the coast of California today. You'll also see this. This is a third listing for this particular quake. Again, this quake was not a 5.03, it was a 5.2. But you'll notice they have 48 stations reporting. And actually, there's a lot more than 48 stations. It's more like 117 seismic stations that reported this earthquake. 48? No, it was a lot more. I'm just going to click on this just to give you an idea. Again, it was a 5.2, not a 5.0. But if you look, the majority of sensors that picked this earthquake up listed 5.3, 5.1, 5.48, 5.93, 5.07, 5.98, 5.46, 5.57. And yes, there's a few 4s dribbled in here. This was a 5.02 here, 5.03, 5.38, 5.19, 507, 5.35, and I could go on. The USGS is trying to play games with us. They do not want us to know the true reality of what this earthquake was. Okay, I believe this earthquake was closer to a 5.3 or 5.4 magnitude earthquake. But again, USGS says otherwise. USGS says otherwise. Now, the USGS is also reporting a couple of quakes here in Oklahoma and Kansas. They're not, this one they have showing here in Caldwell, Kansas, being a 3.0, and this other one they have showing here in Fairview, Oklahoma, being a 2.8 magnitude earthquake. Both quakes, mostly smaller, what they call small to minor earthquakes here. There's actually about 4 or 5 earthquakes here in between Kansas and Oklahoma today. Also, another earthquake hit over here on the north end of the New Madrid Fault, the north end of the New Madrid Fault. And they're not telling us about it. They're not talking about it. But I will show you real quick, as soon as my earthquake map loads here on my phone, I will show you where that earthquake hit. I think you probably won't be too surprised by it because this happens literally too many times. Literally too many times. Before I show you that though, I want to show you the Salton Sea, the Salton Butte volcano. Okay, so before we go any further and show you what happened in Tennessee today, look at the number of earthquakes that actually hit over by the Salton Sea. 50 earthquakes hit over on the, that is the northeast corner of the Salton Sea. I'm sorry, that was my police scanner. I had turned it on to monitor police calls from this earthquake today. Okay, I'm going to open this up and show you how many earthquakes actually hit down here just south of the Salton Sea. Look at all these quakes. Look at all these quakes. Is that surprising or not? Okay, I want to show you something here. I want to show you what happened here. And actually, that wasn't the Salton Sea I just showed you. That was the they had the map had brought me to an area. I thought it was the Salton Sea, by the way it looked, but it wasn't. There was only one earthquake today over on the northwest end of the Salton Sea. This was a 1.70 earthquake. I was thinking that the earthquakes that I showed you were right down here on the northeast end of the Salton Sea, but it wasn't. I'm sorry about that. That was my bad. But you can see the earthquakes off to the east of the Salton Sea there, or west, I'm sorry, off to the west of the Salton Sea. We have this earthquake that was over on the northwest side, a 1.70 at Salton City right here. These others are up on top of the Chocolate Mountains here. The Chocolate Mountains divide San Diego County from Imperial County. These were up in the northeastern part of San Diego County called Borrego Springs. Sorry, let me put that back up. Borrego Springs right there. Okay, so that's what happened down in Salton Sea. I'm sorry to have deviated a little bit from what happened today. There are 4 earthquakes between Oklahoma here, between Oklahoma, 3 earthquakes, and then 1 up in Kansas today. This earthquake that you see hanging out here is over at Tiptonville, Tennessee. Tiptonville, Tennessee today had a 1.5 magnitude earthquake. Now, if you look closely, I'm going to try to zoom in here a little bit. This is at the north end of the New Madrid Fault. You can see the New Madrid Fault as it comes up from the south, goes up through dividing Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, up here into Indiana, and off north end from there. Parts of it go off here over to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then it branches east from there. But Tiptonville, Tiptonville, Tennessee was hit by a 1.5 magnitude earthquake today. USGS did not show you that, did they? And they didn't show you the other earthquakes in Oklahoma or Kansas there. Today also, near South Glens, New York, South Glens Falls, New York, we had a 1.80 up in South Glens Falls, New York, a 1.80 magnitude earthquake. Again, USGS did not show you that. This is an EMSC European map showing the earthquakes, detailing where the earthquakes were. One other location besides what we showed you here, just a minute, let me bring back the USGS map. Okay, now you're seeing the USGS map. Again, we had an earthquake over here on the central mid-Atlantic ridge. The earthquake fault that runs from the northern Antarctic fault, Antarctic ridge here, all the way through the South Atlantic, up in the mid-Atlantic between Venezuela and Africa here. It goes and continues, meanders its way up into, up in through Greenland and up between, this is Iceland, I should say, up through Iceland, cuts Iceland basically in half and goes between Greenland and Svalbard. Svalbard is right here. But what they're not telling you, again, they're not being honest with us. They're not being honest with us. Over on the southwestern side of Iceland, the southwestern side of Iceland, guess what, folks? We had a 4.2 magnitude earthquake on the northern mid-Atlantic ridge on the edge of Iceland. The edge of Iceland got hit by a 4.2 moderate earthquake today. Now, what you also need to know is we have two volcanoes up in that same area. One is called the Torbjorn volcano, and it has been showing signs of a possible impending eruption for several months now. The Torbjorn volcano is showing earthquakes underneath and around the volcano. And so that may very well be part of what happened today over on the southeastern corner of Iceland. Okay, you notice, let me bring it back here. You notice Iceland here, and the US agency did not report it. The US agency is only reporting one lone earthquake over here in Turkey, southeast Turkey, a 4.4 moderate quake. But they didn't show this 4.3 over in southeastern Iceland. So that's what's going on. I don't think you got that. Here it is. There's southeastern Iceland right there, and that's where the earthquake hit. That's where the earthquake hit today. Okay. I have other things to discuss with you tonight besides earthquakes, but because we've had so many large earthquakes today, 10 of them in the Ring of Fire, 10 5.0 and above earthquakes, some of them in the 6 range, 2 earthquakes today in the 6 range that hit in the Pacific Ring of Fire. Okay, as I said yesterday, the Ring of Fire goes from the South Pacific area around Tonga and Fiji and the Solomon Islands of Vanuatu and Indonesia, and goes up around over to the Asian area, Southeast Asia, and then it comes around by the coast of Chile, South America, and goes right on the inner side of the Central America, goes up by Japan, goes up through the Kuril Islands, up over to Kamchatka, Russia, and over through the Aleutian Islands to the main part of Alaska. Okay, let me show you this again one more time. Let me show you this USGS map one more time so I can make sure you understand where this Ring of Fire is. Okay, I showed it to you yesterday. Okay, this is Alaska up here. The Aleutian Islands are right through here. This is where I was telling you about. The South Pacific is where earthquakes originate from. Earthquakes originate from here, and they flow west, they flow east over here to South America, to Chile and Argentina. Then they follow the coast, usually. Not all the time. Sometimes the earthquake energy will come over here into Argentina and up into Bolivia up into Peru. And then you can see the earthquake fault here, but we get earthquakes all up in here. But these earthquakes originate from down here in the South Pacific, go through here, up the coast of South America, Central America, and come into the United States. Whereas the energy that flows west flows over into this area of Indonesia, Taiwan, or Philippines, Taiwan, Japan area, and continues north, but it also goes west through southern China, India, Nepal area, Pakistan area, all the way into the Middle East, up into areas of Northern Europe, Italy, Northern Europe, Switzerland, Germany, Austria. We've had earthquakes go into Romania, up into the European craton up here in Romania. And they go usually all the way over here through Switzerland, through France, and all the way, we've even had a couple quakes come over here to the Azores, also up into England, the British Crown area. Okay, that's where the earthquake seismic energy goes. But it also goes up the northwest end of the Pacific, around Asia, up into the Kuril Islands up here. You see where the faults are? The fracture zones here in the Pacific Ocean. This is the Kamchatka, Russia Peninsula. We have earthquakes that hit here and over on the western side of Kamchatka here in what they call the Sea of Okhotsk. Okay, but the earthquakes come over here and go through the Aleutian Islands into Alaska, and then curve down and go down the western side of the North American continent. And that's what we've seen. During the past year that we've been on the air, we've shown you how this earthquake energy goes through and across the plate. There are also what we call earthquake superhighways. These are earthquake faults, undersea fracture zones that go west to east. West to east. And when that happens, the seismic energy will come off of one of these fault zones here, these fracture zones, and it'll go superhighway over to the United States. And it could also go over superhighway from here all the way into Central America, or this energy here goes into South America. These are called earthquake superhighways, for lack of a better term. They're undersea fracture zones, deep earthquake ridges. Okay, canyons, in fact, in the Pacific Ocean. That's how that happens. And then the seismic energy, once it hits land, goes across and through the plate and continues, just like we're seeing here. Now, today, okay, even though this earthquake here off the coast of Petrolia, even though it hit later in the afternoon, it's my feeling and the feeling of quite a few others that the seismic energy that hit over here in Salt Lake had come from the western or the eastern Pacific here, and had come across and hit in Salt Lake City, across and through the plate. Why do we say that? Because we've had a great number of upper fives right in this area of the Cascadia subduction zone. Okay, this area up here is the Juan de Fuca fault. Juan de Fuca fault here. This is the Blanco fracture zone, the Gorda Ridge, the Gorda escarpment, and the Cascadia subduction zone right here. But we've had significant earthquake activity over in this area here. And it's my feeling, like I said, as well as many other people, that the earthquake energy we felt in Salt Lake City came from this area here. There are also underwater and underground magma chambers that feed off of the magma chambers coming from the Pacific Ocean, and they feed into this area as well. Why do you think we continue to have our volcanic areas, even areas that have what they claim to be as extinct or no longer active volcanoes that are getting hit with earthquakes today? Not today, but in general. That's where this earthquake energy came from. We've had substantial earthquake activity up here in the northern reaches of the Cascadia subduction area, and even up here into northern Vancouver Island. This is Vancouver Island. If you remember back to December 24th and 25th, we had 7.0s here, a good cluster of large major earthquakes hitting this area just north of Vancouver Island. And we honestly thought those would turn into the Cascadia earthquake. We were itching, but it didn't happen. They kind of died off. The energy, I believe, still is trapped in this area here. The energy is trapped. Some of it came down here. We've had earthquakes on the Blanco fracture zone. We've had earthquakes over here between the Blanco and Juan de Fuca and the Cascadia subduction area. We've had earthquakes right in here as well. But not enough energy has drained out from Alaska. We believe that there's a lot of seismic energy still locked up here in Alaska, where we're going to have another large earthquake similar to the Kobuk earthquake today, but it's going to hit down here in Anchorage. But the seismic energy is locked up in this area still, and it's still locked up down here. Otherwise, we would have seen a Cascadia event before now. Last July 4th, we had an earthquake over in Ridgecrest, California. But just prior to that, up here at Queen Charlotte's Island, we had a magnitude 6.3 earthquake here. 2 days later, Ridgecrest hit. And we honestly thought that this 6.3 energy would come down here and create havoc over here in the Pacific Northwest. It didn't do it. It dropped from here to down here. And those of you that have been with me for a while have heard me talk about this earthquake energy coming in here and causing problems. We've talked about extensively about Cascadia, the earthquake hitting, a 9.0 plus earthquake, but it hasn't happened yet. But we still have, by all facts, scientific facts, to prove that the energy still exists and is building up even at the volcanoes. I had a discussion with someone from USGS the other day, and I told you about this on a couple different programs. He said, "Oh, Ron, you're wrong." Really? How come the evidence suggests otherwise? And he didn't answer me. Okay. Anyway, that's about earthquakes today. I didn't plan on taking all this time to talk about the earthquakes that hit, but the earthquakes are still a major story, not just here in the United States, but around the world. Okay. Now, I have other things to talk to you about, not fish to fry, but other information that we need to share with you. Again, today's March 18th, my mother's birthday. Thank you, Mother. Happy birthday. As of today, this morning, there were 6,519 coronavirus cases here in the United States. Some states, the numbers doubled. For example, in Colorado, the number of coronavirus cases has doubled, and in New York as well. Now we have coronavirus cases all over the United States. Every state has at least one or more coronavirus cases. In many cases, it's 30, 40 or more cases. Salt Lake City, as of yesterday, had 40 plus cases. Now, because of everything that's gone on today, or not Salt Lake City, Utah has had over 43 cases so far. And on Sunday, Colorado went from 17 cases to 40 plus cases on Monday morning. Okay, as of today, there were 6,519 coronavirus cases here in the United States, 114 deaths. 114 deaths so far just in the United States of America. Now, we still have over 200,000, actually 218,663 coronavirus cases around the world, worldwide. 218,663 coronavirus cases worldwide. The death toll has passed 8,000. 8,943 deaths from coronavirus worldwide. 84,000 people have recovered. 84,383 people have recovered from the coronavirus. Right now, today, we have 125,337 active coronavirus cases. Currently infected patients, we have 118,416. That's 94%. 94% of the active cases are infected patients. Okay, the number of closed cases so far is 93,326. 93,326. The number of cases that had an outcome. An outcome either is death or recovered. 90% of the number of people that had the coronavirus have recovered. 84,383 by current numbers. Okay, we've had again 8,943 deaths. That's 10%, and that's actually higher than the seasonal flu. The seasonal flu, I think, is at 6%. So the coronavirus has taken over. Okay, President Trump this morning had a press conference with his team, his coronavirus team, and he announced that he is invoking what they call the Defense Production Act as part of the administration's efforts to tackle the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, the act ensures that the private sector, businesses and you and I, can ramp up manufacturing and distribution of emergency medical supplies and equipment. The move gives the White House the authority to increase production of masks, ventilators, and respirators, as well as expand hospital capacity to combat the coronavirus. As some of you have known, that some of the hospitals are now beyond their capacity to take new coronavirus patients. And this money that the president and Congress has now allocated, and by the way, the Senate passed the bill that the president wanted passed to allocate money for the treatment of coronavirus and to try to head it off, including developing a vaccine, which has been gone on to the super vaccine superhighway, and they're already in preliminary FDA trials for that virus or that vaccine. Okay, The president made his announcement at the press conference along members of the coronavirus pandemic task force. The U.S. has largely shuttered many aspects of daily life in order to turn the tide against the virus, to stem the rapid onset of the virus, echoing efforts across the globe. President Trump also announced that the housing department is suspending all foreclosures and evictions until the end of April this year, and it could go longer than that. Earlier in the day, the president announced that the US and Canada had come to an agreement to temporarily close the northern border between Canada and the United States, the shared border between Canada and the United States, closed it down to anything except, or everything except, non-essential traffic. Vice President Mike Pence, who is leading the task force, announced that the Health and Human Services Department are suspending regulation that prevents medical professionals from practicing medicine across state lines. So we can have more doctors and nurses to go to outside their states to help stem the tide of the coronavirus. Asking if he saw the nation on a wartime footing, he said he did, and he described himself as essentially a wartime president because he's going full to battle against the coronavirus. The president announced, like I said, the closing of the Canadian-US border. Okay. The president also announced yesterday, and he talked about it this morning at today's news conference, he wants to send American families, to you and I, immediate financial money to try to bail us out, to try to survive this coronavirus event. The money's been now approved by Congress this afternoon, by the Senate, and it's been sent to the president's desk for him to sign it into law. So it immediately will start giving you and I money to survive during what we're going to end up doing is basically closing down the United States on a lockdown. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Right? The president has held a number of press conferences as this crisis has escalated in an effort to keep the public informed and to preview measures that the administration is taking. He had previewed today's press conference by saying he would discuss very important issues from the Food and Drug Administration concerning the coronavirus, which he did. On Saturday, the president announced he was extending the European travel ban to include Britain and Ireland. Yesterday, he spoke at a press conference where Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said that the administration wants to send checks to Americans, and which that is now going to happen in the next 2 weeks in an effort to help people cope with the economic fallout due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, today we were told that we would start seeing the money in mid-April next month. And by May, we would be seeing the rest of the money that's going to be distributed to people like you and I. Okay. Now, there was a little bit of other bad news in regards to the pandemic. The first congressman, a sitting congressman, announced today that he has tested positive for the coronavirus. Florida Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, B-A-L-A-R-T, announced today that he tested positive for the coronavirus, the first sitting member of Congress. Now, there's other senators and congressmen that have isolated themselves, quarantined themselves because of the coronavirus. But this is the first one to announce that he had it. Now there was a tussle over on the View television talk show in the mornings on ABC. Whoopi Goldberg, the president of the View, if you will, she acts like a tyrant, dictator, but Whoopi Goldberg demanded Americans stop calling COVID-19 a Chinese virus. But Meghan McCain, the only real conservative on the panel, the 5-person panel, wasn't having any of it and made a big deal. And Whoopi almost went to blows again with Meghan McCain this morning. Okay. Now, yesterday, during our presentation, we mentioned that a movie theater that is a franchise operation throughout Utah and Nevada, okay, it's called the Megaplex Theaters. Today, the Megaplex Theaters announced that they're suspending regular business operations at all of their theater complexes. Yesterday, they told us that they were going to separate people from others a good distance so they could continue in operation and show people movies that they wanted to see. This afternoon, they made an announcement that people really didn't want to hear, that they are suspending regular business operations at the Megaplex Theaters, effective immediately. While there have been no confirmed cases of COVID-19 at the Larry H. Miller Megaplex Theaters to date, after carefully reviewing the recommendations of the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta and other health safety experts, we are proceeding with a temporary closure of the Megaplex Theaters locations in Utah and Nevada, effective immediately and continuing until further notice. Other businesses located within the Megaplex Theater complex may also temporarily close, including small kiosks and ice cream places and chocolate places. They also have a chocolate factory outlet there. I don't believe it's a chocolate factory, but it's another chocolate outlet there. And they're closed up now. Megaplex Theaters will utilize existing benefit policies to continue to pay eligible full-time team members during this temporary business interruption and provide additional assistance to part-time team members that are negatively affected by the temporary measure. Okay, this is in keeping with what President Trump announced yesterday. He wants to keep getting people money so that they can survive and not lose everything that they've worked all their lives for. Now, like you and I and many other people across the nation, most people in this country and across the world, around the world, live from paycheck to paycheck. And the president and Congress know that. And so they will be issuing at least $1,000 to every person in the United States. Megaplex Theaters will continue to monitor the ongoing situation and follow the advice and guidance of federal and state officials and health and state agencies. Okay, that's all we have in regards to the coronavirus. Now, what I wanted to do, and I told you that I would like to do this going forward, is I want your views, your opinions to be part of this show. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to open up the telephone lines where you can call and talk to me and give us your views and your opinions on what you've heard today what you've seen yourself in your own state, city, and town, and talk to us. Yes, we started this sometime last week, and we want to continue it. It's very important that we listen to you and be able to come up with information that you want us to cover about whatever subject. So the telephone number is to our studio is 1-669-900-6833. Again, 1-669-900-6833. You're going to need the meeting ID of 238-494-3128. Again, the meeting number is 238-494-3128. You can begin calling anytime you want to. We will take calls, should last no more than 5 minutes, and we will cease taking calls at approximately 2 minutes to before 8 p.m. At 7:58 p.m., we will not take any more calls, and we will talk briefly for a few minutes about what we've learned and end the show at that point in time. Okay, we have our first caller. Welcome, caller. Welcome to the program with Ron. What is your name?
Well, Ron. I appreciate you opening up the phone lines. It is the one, the only, the legend, TLO of Minneapolis.
There's my good friend. That's who I thought you were. That's awesome, TLO. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, Ron. I'm doing well. A lot
TLO
better,
was
unfortunately, than a lot of folks.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's wonderful. TLO was on the telephone lines with us late last night on Late Night Talk here on the Freedom Revolution Network. And TLO talked with myself and Dwayne and Scarlett until the wee hours of the morning. TLO, we sure appreciate you, brother. What's on your mind?
Well, I would just like to just say hello to all the people out there, all the EMA family and friends, and say that, during these times, I definitely have been thinking about all of you guys. When the earthquake happened today, I immediately went onto Discord and asked to see if you were all right.
Yeah. TLO, to be quite honest with you, where we are in the south end of the Salt Lake Valley, there's my community of Sandy, Utah, and one south of us called Draper. Draper even had an earthquake this morning. Draper had an earthquake. These earthquake and aftershocks were felt all over the county, up into Wyoming, over in Nevada, and all the way into southern Utah. That's how far this earthquake went. It was all over. But when it woke me up at 9 minutes after 7 this morning, again, I was trying to get a few more minutes of sleep, and my wife was going to take our daughter to work, and they gave everybody at her work time off today because of the earthquake. Number one, for the safety of the children, because we honestly had no idea what kind of aftershocks we were going to be having here in Salt Lake. And there were over 100 of them, over 100 aftershocks. The largest being about a 4.5, which totally surprised my wife. 2 4.5s today. Unreal. We haven't had
That
a
is unreal.
4.5 in a long time. But
Absolutely.
all we got was a gentle shaking like this. If you see your screen, all we got was a gentle shaking like this until the second part of the earthquake hit. The first part was a P wave, and it was a gentle shaking. And then all of a sudden we got that rolling motion happening. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's when you notice the earthquake, is when you get the roll.
Yeah, unreal, unreal. And this was a gentle earthquake by my own earthquake standards. Having lived in San Diego for 28 years and having responded to the Northridge earthquake back in 1994, 93, 94, whatever it was. Um,
Yeah,
those earthquakes,
94.
those earthquakes were a slam. The initial P
Yeah, a
wave
jolt.
wasn't the gentle shaking that we had today. It was a wham, wham, bam, thank you, man. And then the rolling and the shaking started and continued. But those I will never forget. I was in bed one morning at 7 o'clock in the morning actually twice, two different times in San Diego. I was in bed at 7 o'clock in the morning when these two quakes hit. The second event, I sleep on the edge of the bed. And the strength of that quake threw me off the bed onto the floor, where all of a sudden I was looking up and going, oh my gosh, this is not good. Because I had a 4-foot long plate glass window above my body. And I saw the plate glass doing the S number, doing the wave number. And I thought, oh my gosh, this ain't good. And so I immediately got up, grabbed a pair of pants off the end of my bed where I kept them for that exact same reason. My shoes were right there. I put on my shoes, put on my pants, and went to the bedroom door. Because at the time we had been told that was the door jamb, the door buffer
the
above
old
the
door
door.
frame.
Yeah, the upper door frame would protect us. Guess what? I saw the walls moving in a way, and the whole apartment was shaking. And I'm going, this ain't good. And pieces of the asbestos ceiling stuff, you know, that popcorn crap, was falling.
Oh yeah.
It was falling. And I'm going, this ain't good. So I ran to the front door and stood in the middle of the door frame of the front door. At which time I looked above me, and the concrete landing where my neighbor goes into her apartment, pieces of concrete were falling down. I said, this ain't good either. So I ran out into the main area, the common area between the apartment buildings, and thought I was safe. Until this old Indian gentleman, and not from India, he was American Indian, he came out of his apartment rushing out and grabbed hold of me and squeezed the life out of me. He was scared. He was really shaking. And then when I knew my life was going to be over, is when my neighbor from above me ran out of her apartment down the stairs and grabbed hold of the other part of me. And both these people were squeezing the lifeblood out of Ron.
Ouch.
And then I heard water sloshing out of our pool. And I turned and saw waves coming out of the pool. And I'm going, holy cats. And then I realized it was still shaking. The ground was still moving. And
that was a long one.
Minute or so. Oh yeah, it was a long.
Yeah, that was a long one.
Terrifying. And later
well,
that
unfortunately, oh, go ahead.
Later that day, I went out and helped Caltrans, the Department of Transportation in California, check bridges and highway and freeways, and we closed 2 bridges because they had damage from that earthquake. Today, in today's earthquake, they sent UDOT, Utah Department of Transportation out, and I'm sure the Highway Patrol too, and they checked the freeways and found everything normal. No damage to bridges, no damage to anything on the highways.
Interesting.
Yeah, unreal.
Yeah, no, I don't have any stories like that just because I've grown up born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so we don't get too much action here. So to compensate for that while I was young, and trust me, though some people have seen the photo or my little icon or whatever, I might look young, but I am I'm 41 years old. So back when I was younger, in my old days, I was a storm chaser with friends, and so I searched out a little more excitement. And we definitely saw some pretty good storms, being in the upper Midwest and the top half of the once called Tornado Alley. I believe it's expanded much now, considering the climate change and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
But
that.
yeah, no, my life has been pretty much centralized here. I've traveled a little bit. I've never nothing international, with the exception of Canada. I've been there a few times through the Boundary Waters.
Yeah, I've been there too. Fished it.
Oh yeah, no, I used to go canoeing up there all the time.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful, absolutely stunning, clear water. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
You could see like at least 80 to 100 feet in some lakes down.
Yeah.
There's Rose Lake was one of the bigger ones. That was very clear waters, and you could see all the way down. You could see the old boulders that were left over from glaciers and whatnot. So
yeah, unreal. It's spectacular up there. I loved it.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a long time.
Yeah. My parents moved us away from there in 1972. We lived in Fargo, and I visited Minneapolis several times, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, Fergus Falls, up there to where, what's that, Mankato State.
Oh yeah, Mankato State. Yeah.
I was up at Mankato State one summer watching the Vikings doing preseason workouts. Fantastic.
Yes.
Loved it there.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, up seeing Babe and the Blue Ox, and that wasn't Mankato.
The North Shore is beautiful.
Yeah.
Fargo's got a lot of great landscapes.
Yeah, it does.
The southern part of the state is definitely a little more green, a lot of rolling hills, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they call those mountains it's a great place. In your neck of the woods. Rolling hills in Minnesota and North Dakota. That's all they get. There's rolling hills. They call them mountains there. They go skiing. They go skiing on those rolling hills. Unreal.
Oh, we do. We do. Afton and whatnot. So, well, yeah, no, the purpose of me calling in was just kind of to get my voice out there, have people recognize who I am, because I will try and call in more. We'll see how things go. I'm starting a new job tomorrow, and we'll be working the later shift. Oh yeah, no, it is fantastic. I'll be making about $4 more than my old job, so that's going to be a vast difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I understand that. That is cool. That is cool. What are you going to be doing? You don't have to name the name of the company, but generally.
Oh, no, I'm going to be a front desk supervisor at a condominium residence.
Oh, cool. That's great.
It's a great opportunity. I'll be working with some folks that I know. It was their full-time job, and then they had a part-time job working with me at my full-time job, which was Banana Republic.
That's a good store.
It is a good store. It's good clothes, good store. Decent price too. Most people don't get. It's for what you're spending. It'll last a while. I've got some sweaters and jeans that have lasted for about 6-7 years. So,
gosh, that's great. I used to have a sweatshirt that had Banana Republic on the breast part of the sweatshirt. I love that. I wish I had it now. That was one of the warmest sweatshirts I had. Jeez.
Oh yeah, we've got great warm clothes.
Yeah. Love it.
So yeah, no, I called in to say hello, let my voice be known. Apparently there's a debate going on somewhat in the chat whether or not my voice is tired, which yes, I am tired, but I constantly move. But no, my voice is, well, should I say it's changed recently? Yeah. Somewhat changed recently. I had a incident not too long ago, traumatic brain injury. I was jumped while I was out with a woman I was dating, and ended up in the hospital for a while. So one of the symptoms, or one of the things that you can suffer after that, is actually a change in your voice. And so I believe that's kind of what happened, as I have always had around this sort of tone of a voice, but it kind of oscillates a lot more. So I can go in between higher pitches and lower pitches.
Right.
And so that's why I probably sound like I'm without sleep, even though I am without sleep.
I know that feeling too. Oh, my good friend. Gosh, unreal, unreal. I'm so glad you called in. I've been meaning. I wanted to call you and just chew the fat.
Absolutely.
I've been
Absolutely. So have I.
many times I just wanted to pick up the phone and call you and say, "Hey, how are you?"
Absolutely. Yeah, no, ever since I happened across your channel, like I knew, after watching probably maybe 10, 20 minutes of it, I was like, well, this guy is shooting straight. And from what I've seen on the internet, there's an awful lot of people that don't shoot straight just so they can get likes, just so they can get subscribers, just so they can be relevant or whatever is going on in their minds. But a lot of people do things just to get attention, and you have never done that. These people that come on here and say, oh, you're fear baiting or whatever, or fear mongering, whatnot. That's total malarkey.
Yeah. No, I never go for that route. Never have, never will. I want to be business. I want to tell people how they can save their lives, what things that they need to be aware of so they can make plans, make emergency kits and everything else to get ready for whatever's going to happen. And in fact, right
Absolutely.
now, since you brought that up, a little bit of it up anyway, I want to say that I went to Walmart today. I was just going to not go out until I was completely over my cold, and I'm getting there. I'm definitely getting there. I'm better than I was this time last week. I'm 100% better than that, but I still have a little bit of runny, nasally crap, which causes me to cough sometimes. But I went to Walmart and Costco today. Walmart's shelves are still bare. We showed pictures last week of Walmart, and the chairs are still, the shelves are still bare. In fact, there was no dairy in the dairy case, no milk, there was no sour cream, there was no cottage cheese, there was no half and half, there was no almond milk or anything. There was no eggs.
Wow.
At all in Walmart.
Yeah, the eggs are starting to go quick now.
Yeah. Over in Costco, you were allowed only half of a flat at most. They had the eggs divided up into one level of eggs. Usually you have two levels. This is one level of eggs, or 1 dozen eggs, or 1 box of eggs. That was it. They only allowed 1 case of water, 1 package of towels, 1 package of toilet paper, 1 package of meat, whatever meat they had there you wanted to buy. And that was the only thing. And they were out of chicken. They had no chicken at all at Costco.
Wow.
And by the way, there was also very little cereal left at Costco. At Walmart, there was no cereal at all. None. Gone.
Wow.
Unreal. And there were people.
Well, that's probably for all the kids that are now out of school. So you have to kind of consider that.
Yeah. But I mean, the cereal aisle was gone, and there were people waiting for an alleged shipment of toilet paper. There was a line running from the toilet paper aisle all the way back to the front of the store. People putting like 6-foot space between each other. They were being good, not trying to get everybody sick, but there was a line running from the front of the store all the way down to the toilet paper aisle, which when I left, there was still none. And people were still waiting.
Wow.
But why are we waiting for toilet paper?
Yeah, no, that it's getting a little drastic, but even more so for all those out there who do tune in regularly with Ron and whatnot, and have seen me or come across me before. I live ridiculously close to another wrench, Scarlet, and so we kind of occupy the same sort of geography and the same sort of let's just say people, the same sort of people, and so we know. But I was telling her that she needs to shop right now, come into the cities, because right now the cities have a decent amount of stock, and I believe that it's due to the fact that, from what I've witnessed, this is going to be me chiming in with my original call-in opinion. But what I've noticed is this in this city particularly, it seems like there is a lot of either disbelief or just disregard in regards to the virus. There's a lot of people that are just running around and just assuming that everything is fine, and like people are overreacting. Things are getting serious, and I don't know if they're ignoring them or if they're just trying to stay in their little safe bubbles. I'm not entirely sure. But I mean, when you start seeing a police and a sheriff squad car escorting a Target supply truck, you know things are serious.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. Unreal. That's unreal. And you know, I think about the time, gosh, this is funny. I think about the times that I was called to escort vehicles, and mine was a high priority escort. It wasn't a food truck. It wasn't a semi truck with oil or gas. Unreal. I hate to even admit this. It was nuclear weapons trucks that I ended up escorting when I was a cop. I never thought I'd ever see the day. And then I got called to escort several times, and I'm going, oh, great. They're monitoring these trucks with satellites, and now they're monitoring me.
Yeah, exactly. And now, because you've had somewhat close proximity, they probably are still monitoring to some degree.
I'm sure they are.
Absolutely.
I'm sure they are.
Exactly.
I'm sure we have an NSA listening post, National Security Agency listening post, 14 miles west of me. And many times when I've been on the air here, and when I've been on my wonderful handy dandy cell phone, I've said the following phrase: to those who may be listening, I want to welcome you to Ron's Life.
Absolutely.
And I know that.
Oh no, I look up to the sky sometimes. I usually wave because I'm like, yeah, no, I know you guys are up there and looking.
Oh yeah. When satellite photography really became a big deal, the first time we found out about it was when we got pictures of license plates on cars.
Right.
All we had to do.
People don't know that.
Yeah.
People think that's just in the movies.
Yeah. All we have to do is order a picture, and the satellite would take a picture for us.
Correct.
And we could tell who the person was. The satellite picture was so good. We had the make and model of the vehicle, the license plate, and usually either the front face or a side profile of the driver.
Yep.
And how many people were in the car too sometimes. But
that the technology, and obviously that was back then. So now the technology is just ridiculous. And most people don't realize that now, there are things that pretty much mirror what you see on television, whether it be like, say, 24, whether you see other technology, surveillance technologies. I'm not sure what the newest one is. What, Homeland, I think, is like one of the newer shows. But no, they have really upped the surveillance ante. They really have. So most people don't realize that, like, even with our phones, who's to say that there's not somebody like one of those little MIT geniuses that they've got employed who's able to hack into your phone and use your own camera against you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I
always
have-
have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. I have turned off the camera that's part of my laptop. I mean, I've disconnected it.
I block it. I block
Yeah.
it. Like even though I disconnected, I block it. I actually put a piece of Post-it note over it
Yeah. Mine, I've got
because
a little piece of plastic that's got magnets on either side of it. I put it over the top of it. But I also have a portable camera that I can move around and I can do interviews with or whatever. And I've got that camera now that you're seeing me on that camera. So it's a wonderful camera, great resolution, everything. That's why I got it. But I even blocked that one. I unplug it just in case
Yep,
that it
just
could
in
come
case.
back through the laptop. But then I put a cover over the lens just because.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had one
You can
time
never
my
be too
laptop
careful.
camera came on and I did not turn it on.
Exactly. See, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like people don't know smart TVs, laptops, cell phones. Heck, you could even do from like a bank teller machine. You know, security cameras if it's for a building and they don't have that great of a network and it's not got the accurate firewalls in it, you can hack into that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. Hey, TLO, it's been a pleasure, my friend. I'm glad you called in. I'm going to have to end the program.
No
fairly
worries.
quickly,
No
but
worries.
I want to thank you for coming
Thank you
on the
for having
program
me,
today.
and thank you everyone out there. And I do appreciate all the well wishes and all the people thinking about me. I know a few also gave specific love. Sheila, Pamela, I do believe, in regards to my TBI and what I've gone through. It has been a long road
I know it has.
of recovery. I popped right back up and went back to work, but there's a lot of lingering things that I'm still dealing with.
It does.
So, yeah, but I appreciate you all. I appreciate getting promoted to a wrench. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And yeah, thanks for having me, y'all.
All right. Have a great one, TLO. Hope to hear from you again soon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Thank you, Ron.
Have a great one, brother.
Good night.
See you soon. Good
Yeah,
night.
you as well, brother.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
That was TLO from Minneapolis, Minnesota, that called into our show on the open line portion of our show. Thank you, TLO, and thank you, everybody, for being here. God bless you guys. I'm so thankful that each one of us is still here, still above the sod after all these earthquakes, 10 large quakes, 5.0 and over, and even up into the very strong, very large sixes. So everybody, I want to ask you to be safe, be careful, whatever you do. Make sure you have your emergency preparedness supplies because they're about to shut down the United States. I was told earlier today, I got a memo from DC saying that the National Guard was being deployed in all 50 states and all over their states to help local law enforcement and first responders make sure and enforce the lockdown. So it's coming. Watch yourselves. Be cognizant of everything and everyone around you. Be safe in all you do. And I ask the Lord to bless you, as I always do, and do know that we love you. As Walter Cronkite has said, and that's the way it is. Wednesday, March 18th, 2020. For Emergency Management Associates, this is Ron Tyler. Have a great evening, folks. See you soon. Bye-bye. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow, if not sooner. If something else happens, we will be bringing the information to you as soon as it becomes available. Good night, everybody.